Hello, hello. You are joining me in my bedroom. I have shut the dogs out this time so that you can't hear random crying in the background when Badger decides I'm on the phone. And I'm looking out at my front garden. You get quite a good view of the front garden from our bedroom window. I've got a bird feeder where the robin comes. It's quite a nice spot to sort of see the birds coming and going. I was on the fence about recording a voice note to you all today because I don't really have anything sort of set to talk about. Every podcast I've done up until this point, I've had quite a clear picture of what I want to talk about, even if I do end up sort of distracting myself with side rambles. But equally, I kind of don't want to lose the momentum of posting weekly because I've done pretty well so far. I think I started this towards the end of November, maybe the start of December. And I think I've only missed one, maybe maximum 2 weeks since then, which sounds really impressive, but actually, I mean, it's only the end of February, so I think this is maybe my 10th episode. But still, I mean, that's a pretty good record for a new habit, and I'm keen to kind of keep the momentum going. Because I think the only week I missed was over Christmas, where everything's a bit higgledy-piggledy anyway, isn't it? And a lot of podcasts take a break, so we'll just pretend that I did that intentionally and not that I lost track of what day of the week it is. But yeah, my bestie Victoria is coming to visit today, so she doesn't arrive till this evening, so I'm spending the day kind of cleaning and tidying and doing all that stuff that you do when guests come to visit, but is also just kind of a nice thing to do because I like having a clean, tidy house. I'm quite a naturally sort of tidy, organised person, but I live with a boy who is not naturally clean and tidy, and I've got two dogs, and we're renovating the house, so there's just a sort of constant like layer of dust and dog hair on everything. And for all that I'm a clean and tidy person, I also have a lot of hobbies and interests that don't include cleaning and tidying. And so it's pretty common for me to like keep up the basics that keep us sort of clean and healthy and functioning, like laundry and keeping the kitchen clean and stuff like that. But things like dusting and hoovering, if I'm honest, I don't do with any regularity because it just feels like you're pushing a rock up a hill, doesn't it? Especially when you've got dogs, and the Labrador sheds constantly throughout the year. There's no seasonality to it. And everything in our house sheds dust because we're like stripping wallpaper, and the plaster dust comes off the wall, and little bits of paper everywhere, and half the carpet is falling to pieces. So if the dogs kind of run energetically down a hallway chasing a toy, like little bits of carpet will come up, just like the carpet's just literally breaking to pieces because it's like 50 years old. So yeah, so I've made my peace a long time ago, the fact that I'd rather spend, if I've got an hour to spare in an afternoon, I'd rather knit and watch Netflix than hoover, for example. But there's just something satisfying, isn't there, about getting a really good cleaning and tidying session. And then you look at your house afterwards and you're like, oh, why don't I do this more often? It's so nice. And generally, once you get it to a good state, I can keep it like that for maybe a few days or a week. And it's so much easier to keep on top of it, isn't it? But then, you know what it's like. Life gets in the way. You get busy, you get stressed, you get sick, whatever. And then suddenly it's all piled up again. And you're like, well, back to not really caring about it then. So I'm sure at the end of my life, I'm not going to look back and think, I wish I'd hoovered more. So I've made my peace with that. But one of the things I thought I would use this opportunity for is to talk about my sewing plans, or my vague sewing plans for this year. I feel like I've written a blog post about this, but I'm not in front of my computer, so I don't know, basically. And I don't remember recording a voice note about it, so I'm going to just ramble out loud about my sewing plans. So if that's not your thing this week, feel free to skip over this one. But the other reason I thought it'd be quite fun to kind of think about some sewing plans is because Victoria and I are planning a sewing day while she's up here. And actually, my granny gave me a sewing machine recently that came from my great uncle's house. So my granny's brother, who died just over a year ago. Rest in peace, Uncle Dan. And his husband, Ramon, who died the previous year, rest in peace, Ramon, was into sewing, and I think had not long bought himself a new Singer sewing machine. before he kind of got poorly and then couldn't really sew anymore. So when my gran and my dad were clearing my Uncle Dan's house, they found this brand new in the box Singer. I think it's only been out once. So Ellie, my gran, brought it back up to Edinburgh for me, and I took it back up north the last time I saw her. And if I'm honest, I wasn't quite sure what to do with it because I was like, I've got a good sewing machine. I mean, it's just a John Lewis basic model, but Mum bought it for me probably like 15 years ago. I'm pretty certain she bought it for me when I lived in Aberdeen, and that was 2004 to 2008. So yeah, it's, at least 15 years old, and it's still going strong, other than the fact that I slightly melted the cover in one place by putting the iron too close to it. It's still perfectly functional, and I get it serviced not as often as I should, but at least every other year. So it's yeah, I mean, it's doing well and it's showing no signs of dying. The only criticism I would have of it is it's not very good at sewing thicker fabrics. So when I'm sewing jeans, for example, where you have like the crotch, where sort of the back legs are joined together and the front legs are joined together, and then both are joined to each other, and you end up with like 8 layers of denim to sew through, and it does not like that. So I have in the future thought I would definitely, when I've got some more money and the craft room set up, I would definitely consider investing in like an industrial sewing machine of the type that can just breeze through jeans, because I like sewing jeans. I like sewing wool, which is often multiple thick layers of fabric. I like sewing bags, again, multiple thick layers of fabric. So I feel like in buying a second-hand industrial sewing machine would be a good investment, but no time soon. So the John Lewis one will keep going for a while. But yeah, so I brought this Singer back with me to Inverness and was a bit like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this, but I don't really feel like I can say no to a sewing machine. And actually, this week it's going to be perfect because it means when Victoria's here, we'll each have a sewing machine, and I've got an overlocker as well. So yeah, so that's going to be great. So I think I'm definitely going to keep it. I'd vaguely thought, or maybe I'll just store it and then hand it on to someone. Like I feel like if you're into crafts, you're always crossing paths with people who you think, oh, you might like this yarn I'm not using, or this fabric I'm not using, or your kid has just got into sewing. Would you like this sewing machine that I've got sitting in my cupboard for the last 4 years, kind of thing. So I sort of assumed I would do that. But actually, if it's going to sit there anyway, I might as well use it, right? So I'm really looking forward to getting back into sewing. So I've not actually had the sewing machine out really since we moved in October. And I know that doesn't sound like a long period of time, but when we lived in Edinburgh, my sewing machine basically permanently lived out, and I would sew like multiple times a week, even if it was just like 20 minutes here and there. So I have missed it. I have kind of made my peace with the fact that I'm living through a season of life where my focus is more on the house and the garden, and that's fine. But I've got 2 half-finished Bestie bags that I know I've mentioned here. That's the Blackbird Fabrics pattern. And they were gifts for friends from my last job, and I left that job last June. So it would be good to get them finished and sent off to them before it's been an entire year. So I thought that would be quite a good one to finish while I'm sewing with Victoria, because I've made that pattern before and it's quite a straightforward one. So if I'm chatting and whatnot, I don't think it'll be a difficult one to sew at the same time. I also bought... Sorry, hiccups. I also bought a pair of Hobbs trousers off of Vinted. Brand new with the tags on. They were something like £89 new, and I got them for like 40 or 45, 40 I think. And I actually bought them for just to have a smart pair of navy trousers, because my only smart pair of trousers are part of a green suit that I bought for my brother's wedding a couple of years ago, and I love that suit. And I would definitely wear the trousers by themselves with like a white shirt, but it's obviously quite difficult to wear a blazer or something that matches a green trousers. I would need probably either a black or a navy blazer, something like that, which I don't own. So I thought, you know what, the opposite is true. If I got a pair of navy trousers, they would probably do me for lots of occasions, like interviews, weddings, funerals even. I actually don't own anything smart to wear to funerals because I don't really wear much black. I don't really wear any black. So yeah, I don't really have a smart funeral outfit. So I thought this pair of navy Hobbs trousers would be just a good all-rounder. And I knew from the measurements that they were going to be too long, so I just planned to take them up. What I didn't realise was that they have that sort of like small slit at the ankle hem, which I'm keen to keep because I think it's quite a nice design feature. But on top of that, the calf, they're just a little bit too snug fitting through the calf. So what I'd like to do is unpick them to the knee, let them out by, I think, possibly no more than like a 1/4 inch, because they're supposed to be quite a slim fit cut, and I'm keen to keep that, but they're just like a little bit too slim fit around my, let's say, runner's calves. So I'd quite like to let them out a little bit up to the knee and then take a couple of inches off the bottom hem, but preserve this little slit. I've not done that before, so I'm hoping when I take them down, when I undo the bottom hem, I'll be able to kind of work out how to do them back up again in a way that preserves the slit. Otherwise, I'm sure YouTube will help me with that. So I figure those would be my 2 goals to get done while I'm sewing with Victoria. And then my stretch goals, which I might not start this week, it sort of depends on how well I get on with the other 2. I'd quite like to cut out at least 1, if not 2 pairs of jeans. So my trouser collection is a bit of a motley crew, to be honest. Like not just jeans, but trousers in general. I've got a pair. In fact, let's stand in front of them because I'm literally in my bedroom. So I could open my wardrobe and do this live on camera. Oof, that was slammy, my bad. So I have 1 pair of shorts, that's fine. I'm happy with the shorts. I bought them to go to Italy for my brother's wedding and they fit me really well. But obviously I live in Scotland, so limited shorts wearing. I have a pair of, I think these were the Lisa Comfort, ultimate trouser, I think is what they were. And I actually made these from my pal Victoria's bridesmaids dresses. So I made her bridesmaids dresses. I can't remember which pattern I used for that now. I can picture the dress, but I can't remember the pattern. I'll look it up and I'll link it in the show notes. Anyway, it was out of this lovely, I think it's Coupe Pro. I actually can't remember. Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong. Fabric, and it's like a sort of faux, I guess like washed silk type fabric in a navy. And the style of the dress, I'm not really a dress wearer anyway. I actually don't own any dresses anymore, or skirts, come to that. So I knew I wasn't really going to rewear the dress, but I thought I didn't want to get rid of it. So I was like, maybe I could cut it down to a top and then use the sort of skirt fabric for something else. And then I realised I had enough fabric to make the ultimate trousers, which I did. And I sort of thought they would come out smarter. Initially, when I made this, I had vaguely thought I might be able to wear them for my brother's wedding. No, not smart enough at all. They're much more like to wear with sandals, pottering around in the garden in the summer, is kind of how they've come out. I actually haven't worn them in a long time in the winter, so I wonder what they'd look like with boots. Maybe I should try them on again. So I like them, so they're keepers. I have a really aged pair of ginger jeans. These are like one of the first pairs of jeans that I ever sewed myself. I think I sewed 3 of these, if I remember rightly. A green pair that never fit me really. I could get them on, but I couldn't really like bend or stretch or breathe or any of the sort of useful functioning things for life. So they quite quickly went. A sort of teal coloured, where in retrospect, I don't know what I was thinking when I bought that fabric. I over-dyed them navy actually, and I did wear them quite a lot, but again, they just weren't the most comfortable around the crotch. I think either they were too small around the kind of bum hips, or, and I think in retrospect possibly the second one, the rise wasn't long enough because they would slip down at the back, but also when I sat down I'd sort of feel like they were disappearing up my hoo-ha. I think we can all empathise with that feeling. So they quite quickly went as well, and then I was left with this last pair, which I think fit the best more by luck than judgment, because I think I accidentally stretched out the waistband. Because I remember when I first put them on thinking, oh no, they're too big. Hang on, having a drink. Oh no, they're too big. But actually that has made them much more comfortable and much more wearable. So I kind of learned a lesson there that like if they fit really snug straight out the box, there's a chance they're just going to feel tight and constricting. Whereas these ones felt sort of a bit too loose around the middle. I guess it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because denim can stretch out over time. So if they feel too loose to begin with, there's a chance they're going to feel like really loose once they've stretched out a bit. But I think in retrospect, looser is better for me in my kind of style choices. I don't tend to gravitate towards tight things around my middle anymore. Which is just a comfort thing more than anything else. But I do really like these jeans, but because they're skinny, and skinny jeans are just not that trendy anymore, kind of, you know, no shade on anyone who still wears them, but sort of tag you as a bit of an elder millennial, right? So I've just kind of gravitated away from wearing them. And to be honest, these ones are shredded to pieces. Like, the crotch has gone through, both the knees have gone through. I've repaired both the crotch and the knees on multiple occasions. And it's getting to the point now where every time the knee goes through, I'm just like, well, just going to leave it now. There's kind of no point salvaging them. So they've sort of been downgraded to like work trousers, as in like renovation work trousers. But yeah, all it's going to take is one more crotch rip and that's it. They'll be goners. And then, so that's the Closet Core Gingers, which is their skinny pattern. I also have 2 pairs of the Closet Core Morgans, which are their more sort of straight leg, I think they describe it as like a boyfriend fit jean. I really like the style of this jean, and I really like the fit on me. I think I've made a sway back adjustment where you... what do? You take in a little bit round the waist at the centre back, because otherwise I get that sort of gaping bit at the back of my waist. But otherwise, if I remember rightly, I've not really made many alterations. And I have 2 pairs. I have one in a sort of navy cotton twill that I'd sort of made as a bit of a like chino. And I have a pair in a light denim. I really like them both, but... they're both button fly, and the thing I've realised with button fly is that it just tends to gape open, and I don't know if that's like a technique thing for me, like the way I've sewed them maybe, or if that's a just a thing with button fly that it just sort of gapes open. But for both of them, when I'm wearing it, it gives me this impression like I'm bursting out of it, like even though I'm not, it's not that tight around my tummy. But just because you can kind of see half the buttons, it gives this impression it's bursting open when it's actually not. And I don't really know how to fix that. I have Googled it a couple of times. Every time I'm like, oh, maybe I'll remake the Morgans. I then Google and go down a bit of a rabbit hole on... sorry, just double checking this is still recording. Yes, because I said the G word, and so my phone started trying to G it for me. And then interrupted the recording. So every time I kind of look up whether or not that's a skill thing or a button thing, I never really get a definitive answer. So it's kind of put me off making them with a button fly. But I have seen a couple of blog posts where people have converted them to a zip fly. And if I remember rightly, and this feels a bit weird to say that I can't actually remember where I got to with this, but I think I actually have a pair of the Morgans cut out with a zip fly, and I actually can't remember how far into them I got. So that'll be a fun thing to do when Victoria and I'm just getting all my stuff out and set up in the dining room this afternoon. So when she's here, I'll get out all my old projects and sort of see where I got to with everything. But yeah, I would definitely make this pattern again. And actually what I quite like to do, because my last pair of handmade jeans I'm currently wearing is the Modern Sewing Company worker trousers. And these are probably my favourite in terms of sort of style. I feel like they're quite a stylish design. They're a kind of barrel cut jean design, which I really like. But I think it's the what's the word? The length of the rise on the pattern. So the pattern's designed for a 5'6" person, and I am 5 foot. So I took 6 inches out of the length of the leg. I actually took too much out of the length of the leg because they're designed to be worn with a cuff, and I actually ended up not having enough for a cuff. Although I actually like how they look without a cuff, so that was fine. But I didn't think to take anything out of the rise. And I'm actually looking at them. I'm wearing them right now, even as we speak. I just don't think they fit me very well round the waist. They're like a little bit big. I mean, they're comfortable, so don't get me wrong. I actually probably wouldn't size down in the waist because I like how they fit there. But I think they're designed to sit right at your like natural waist, like the narrowest point of view, which for me is obviously roughly where my belly button is. And they sit naturally at least an inch, if not an inch and a half further down, which means the crotch is like, the actual point of the crotch is probably, well, it's actually, I'm just looking at it right now, probably at least 2 inches below my actual crotch. So that, and then on top of that, because the zip is quite long, it sort of just naturally kind of bends in the middle just with the fabric. It doesn't sit flat. So it just gives me this impression like I've got a bit of a tummy pooch. And like, you know, that is what it is. It's lots of people have tummy pooches and no criticism there. But I don't know, it's just, there's a lot going on in the crotch, you know, because the crotch is quite long and quite low, and then the zip sort of like bends, and then you get the fabric kind of pooling. And I think it gives this impression like I'm bigger in that area than I am. And there's a lot of fat phobia to unpack there, right? Because even if it does make me look bigger than I am, like, what does it matter? Like, all sizes of bodies are valid, and it shouldn't matter whether I look bigger than I am or smaller than I am, and that is like social conditioning that's made me feel like it's bad, in inverted commas, to look bigger than I am. But there is just part of me, like, sometimes I catch myself in the mirror when I wear these and I think, oh God, like my gut feeling, my first feeling is, does this make me look fat? And then I feel guilt and shame that I feel like that. Excuse me, hiccups. Because, you know, I'm trying to sort of unpack and unlearn all that fat phobia and whatnot that I was socially conditioned to absorb by growing up, coming of age in the noughties, at the height of like heroin chic and Scarlett Johansson getting her cellulite ringed as she got out of taxi cabs and all that kind of stuff. And actually, it's a shame because that aside, I really like the fit of these otherwise. Like from the back, they've got a bit of a worker utilitarian look about them because they are quite baggy. So they look like the kind of thing that you could, you know, wear to work. And they're probably the first pair of jeans I've ever owned where I don't feel the need to like instantly take them off the moment I walk in the door. Like I'm very much a sort of joggies in the house kind of person, and this is probably the first pair of jeans that I haven't felt the need to do that with. But I definitely feel like they make me ultimately look shorter and wider than I am, and I kind of have to like actively like train my brain not to think of that as a bad thing, you know? So if I'm honest, sometimes there's just a bit too much mental discomfort involved in wearing these trousers, even though physically they are very comfortable and I like the style of them. But, you know, sometimes when you're just having like a bad body image day, I'm just like, oh, I just don't want to wear these because I don't want to deal with the feelings of like fat phobia and whatnot that it brings up. And that's a bit of a shame. So what I was actually thinking was, because I like the fit of the crotch, other than the bulging button band, for the Morgans, I like the fit of the crotch, but I like the leg style of the workers, so I'd quite like to combine them. Even as I'm saying this out loud, I feel like I've maybe said this in a podcast already. Sorry. If I was a proper professional podcaster, I would go back and double check I wasn't doubling up on this content, but yes, anyway, so you got some rambles on my thoughts on fat phobia and body dysmorphia. But yeah, so I would definitely make these trousers again, but I feel like I would either shorten the rise. Well, if I was going to stick specifically to this pattern, I would definitely shorten the rise. And or my other option would be to combine the crotch and rise of the Morgans with the leg and the leg design of the workers. I also really like how the Modern Sewing Company finishes the inside, because it's all finished with bias tape in the like crotch and whatnot, and the zip fly, and it just looks really smart. So I would definitely finish them in that style. And then my other trousers are all thrifted. So I've got a pair of elasticated waist but flat fronted sort of smart-ish trousers that I bought off Vinted for a work conference thing I was going to. And actually they've been like a bit of a stealth hit. I literally bought them for a tenner, sort of thinking, well, I'll wear them for this conference, and if they don't do after that, I'll just donate them, but I'll have had my money's worth, sort of thing. And actually, I've worn them to quite a few things, but I don't know what the fabric is. It's a sort of almost like waffle type design, and good lord, it attracts dog hair. Like, I can literally, like, lint roll myself, and within 5 minutes there's dog hair attached to it again. So it just, again, it kind of stops me reaching for them, because I'm like, I can't really be bothered to be just like constantly lint rolling myself. But also, much as it feels weird to say it because I'm a vet and I own 2 dogs, like being constantly covered in dog hair does actually kind of stress me out a little bit. So I have a favourite red sweater that, again, sometimes I just can't mentally deal with wearing, because I'm like, I can't be bothered to deal with just like constantly lint rolling myself, or like mentally having to constantly see the dog hair and be like, it's fine, just let it go, it's fine, just let it go, you know. So yeah. And then I also have a pair of Gap trousers, which I thrifted again. I think they were like £5 from Cancer Research, and I think it's because they're mislabeled. So they were brand new with tags, and the swing tag said they were 14, but the waistband said they were 10, or it might be the other way around. Yeah, it is that way around. So the swing tag was a 14 and the waistband was a 10. I'm not sure that that's right, because they are quite big on me. Like, I quite often take a 10 on the bottom. And these are quite big on me, so I wouldn't be surprised if these are a 14 and they've maybe been mislabeled in the actual trouser. But they're fine with the belt. I really like the colour. They're a kind of terracotta orange colour, which again was like a bit of a stealth hit. I thought it might be difficult to match things to in my wardrobe, but I actually really enjoy wearing these. And I was looking at them thinking, I think they'd be similar to the Modern Sewing Company Daphne jeans, which, if I remember rightly, are a kind of wide leg jean. So I would like to make a pair of these. I feel like maybe the Persephones as well, that were like everywhere in the sewing world for a while, would also be similar. But yeah, I just feel like feels so ridiculous and like capitalistic, doesn't it? But if we discount the ones that are full of holes and I wear basically to renovate the house in, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I'm wearing them. 6 pairs of trousers that I wear on a semi-regular basis, and then I've got 2 pairs of jeans that I wear mostly for like renovation / garden work, so we'll kind of discount them. But of that 6, I feel like 2 of them are on their last legs because they've got multiple crotch repairs. It's only going to be a matter of time before they're just not going to be worth wearing anymore. 1 I basically only wear in the summer because it's quite a light material. So there's really only like 2 that I wear on an actual regular basis, the worker trousers that I'm wearing and the terracotta wide leg ones. And like the others I can kind of get away with, but I just don't really reach for them. And I feel like I would quite like to refresh my jeans and my trousers. And maybe sew even just like 2 more pairs. I think if I had a pair of the wide leg ones but in a navy, and I had another 1 or 2 pairs of like my workers but in a more, I hate the word flattering, but a better fitting, shall I say, crotch. If I just had 4 pairs of trousers, I think that would be perfect. I could like cycle through them. It'd be enough to have some variety and not feel like I was wearing the same thing over and over, which is kind of how I feel at the moment. But not so much variety that there were things that were just languishing, you know, because I don't mind having like the pair that's I mostly wear in the summer. Like, I don't mind that. I have 1 pair of shorts that's mostly for hot weather, and mostly only for hot weather, and this pair of sort of navy loose fitting ones. And like, that's fine. 2 pairs of bottoms in my wardrobe to wear in the summer is fine. Like 2 pairs of jeans for renovation work is fine because I'm doing renovation work like almost every day. But then that leaves 5 pairs of trousers that are for casual wear, of which only 2 are, you know, actually kind of comfortable to wear and not falling to pieces. So yeah, I just feel like maybe sewing up a couple of pairs of trousers and then just doing a bit of a 1 in, 1 out type system, like getting rid of Probably textile recycling, some of the ones that aren't really appropriate anymore, I think would be sensible. So I don't think I'm going to manage to sew a pair of jeans unless I have this vague recollection that I do have a pair of jeans cut out and I'd got as far as the zip fly maybe. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out of unearthing everything. And the other thing I'd quite like to do while Victoria's here is I'd like to get out, so I actually thought if I can be bothered, I'm going to do it this afternoon, carry all of my boxes of fabric downstairs. I think there's only 3, but they are quite heavy. And kind of get it out and go through it, because it's all stuff that I've brought from Edinburgh. So it's all stuff that when I was packing up, I thought I would definitely use. But I also haven't really looked at it since like last summer, you know. So it would be good to just get it all out and remind myself of it, see if there's anything in there that I could potentially get rid of. I feel like I'm constantly trying to get rid of things, because we moved from a 1-bed flat to a 4-bed house, which feels a little bit excessive, but it was because we wanted a big garden, and we ideally wanted a 3-bed house, but all the houses with bigger gardens came with 4, even 5-bed houses attached to it. So yeah, we got this 4-bed house, and we only could really afford it because it needs the whole house really needs renovating. But it does mean that I have a lot of space now, so I'm going to have, hopefully in time, a dedicated craft room, which will be the kind of backup guest room, but it'll be mostly for my crafting, which is amazing, and I feel super lucky and privileged to have that in my future. But what I don't want to do is do that thing where we move into a big house and then just fill it full of crap, you know? So even when we lived in the 1-bed flat, I was very on it with like being very cautious about what I brought into the house. If I brought stuff in, trying to donate things, so it was a bit of a 1-in, 1-out type situation. But I kind of feel in this house like I could potentially relax on that a little bit, and I kind of don't want to, because I don't want to be like, I've definitely seen my parents and Andrew's parents fill their houses full of stuff just because they've got the space for it. And my parents have just gone through a really epic clearing out because they're getting their house rewired. So they've had to literally empty almost the entire house, including furniture. So that's obviously prompted quite a big clearing out of stuff. Which in some ways makes me a little bit sad, because I know for a fact Mum had books on the bookshelf that I'd always vaguely thought I would quite like to have, and I suspect a lot of that's gone. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, more power to you guys. Like, my brother and I don't live at home anymore. It's a big house for Mum and Dad to be knocking around in, just the 2 of them. Like, it's lovely when we come visit that we've got plenty of space and they've got a garden and the dogs all get on, which is great. But yeah, I can totally see that when you've lived in the same house for like 30 odd years, it would be easy to accumulate stuff and kind of like, I use the word hoard, but I don't mean in the clinical sense, but hoard it kind of mindlessly, you know? So yeah, like, more power to them for going through that process. I think I would probably rather try and be mindful throughout my whole life than get to the point in my 60s of having to do this like epic clear out that takes weeks and weeks and like multiple trips to the dump and multiple trips to the charity shop and all that kind of stuff, you know. But I have no doubt it's in my future, because, you know, there's probably no avoiding it, right? But just try to be mindful about what I bring into the house and what I keep and what I get rid of, etc. But I suspect I've already rambled on for like a good half hour, so I'm going to leave it here. I'll obviously be writing a blog post or recording an update on what I get on with my sewing day, so I'm very excited to have my pal coming to visit, but especially because I think it'd be really nice to like put on some music, get some snacks, brew some tea or some coffee, and just like spend the day sewing. So yeah, in a way, I feel bad saying it. I'm kind of hoping that we have a bit of a grey, drizzly day, because if the weather's lovely, we'll probably feel obliged to go out and like take a walk, whereas actually it'd be quite nice to just like curry in and spend the day sewing, you know. So yeah, wherever you are and whatever you're up to, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will speak to you all next week. All right, bye.